Kit's Quest is an inspired 3D platformer about a cute fox with 2 voice lines in the entire game. That's it. That's all there is. I hope you enjoyed them because you're going to be hearing these weirdly human grunts for the rest of the game. That aside, the core gameplay loop consists of collecting teeth and berries in the most inconvenient of places to get farther into the game. Pros. It's like diving headfirst into a rainbow filled with nostalgia, evoking memories of classic character platformers like Spyro and Banjo-Kazooie. Okay, it's not as polished as those legends, but it's like an enthusiastic homage, you know, like singing in the shower before anyone else hears you. The soundtrack's pretty catchy. It's kind of like having a peaceful disco invading your eardrums and not leaving you alone the whole time. The best part is that invasion happens each time you get into a new zone. But the puzzles here are kind of like gourmet brain snacks, especially some of the hidden collectibles. They're like little mysteries that require you to connect the dots between levels. Even without guides, it's a pretty sweet spot of exploration. It's challenging enough to make you hunt, but not so hard that you'll be pulling your hair out. Despite the small team, they've been able to pump out tons of content. Like the collectathons it's inspired by, it'll take quite a few hours to get through the entire game. The cons? The visuals are like a fancy cake with slightly wobbly frosting. It's okay, but there's a dash of oddness that's hard to ignore. In a game that's all about characters, you get stuck with Kit, who's about as talkative as a pet rock. Sure, the other animal models drop some funny lines, but the world's like a fancy hotel with boring guests. And everyone brought chips to the potluck. Steam achievements? They're like climbing Mount Everest in your pajamas. Not impossible, pretty dang tough. This is a small gripe, but the soundtrack of Cascade Ravine, it just won't leave your brain. It's on loop. You're essentially trapped in a musical Groundhog Day. I'm surprised at some of the difficulty scaling of this game. You're gonna need the patience of a saint and the skill of a ninja. Some of these challenges are gonna make you want to smash your keyboard on your face. And the coordination you're gonna need to solve some of these challenges are like trying to thread a needle on a roller coaster. On higher difficulties, you're gonna start to wonder if the developers themselves are even able to pull off these challenges. For example, take speedrun mode. It's more apt to call it speed ruin mode. The timers are so tight. It's like trying to beat a Formula 1 car in a foot race. Sometimes it feels like the game's just pranking you, and that your skill doesn't really affect the outcome that often. I think a big part of that is fighting the controls the majority of the game. The game does recommend that you play on a controller, but they could have definitely mapped out something better on the keyboard. But more than fighting the controls is going to war with the camera. There's active follow, which is like having a personal photographer, but then there's auto centering, which is like a GPS that leads you to the wrong side of the moon. It's on by default, and it's like having an overeager dance partner. 2 steps ahead of you, but never in the right place. The pacing and placing of some of the puzzles seem to be kind of cruel. Sometimes there's a killer puzzle right at the end of a long platforming section. The Great Oak level is particularly bad. However, despite its shortcomings, if you're looking for a collectathon that's got some heart put into its design, I think this game is actually worth playing. And at a $12 price tag, I think you'll get more than your money's worth for this cute fox game.